I greet you in Jesus' precious name. It's just wonderful to be with you today. I hope you're relaxed, sitting back, having a nice cup of coffee or a cup of tea. I want to speak to you about a very serious matter. Yes, I'm talking about suffering. Everybody suffers. Nobody is exempt from suffering. Whether you are a baby, whether you're an old person, you still suffer. We go through suffering. Jesus himself suffered more than all of us. One of my favorite scriptures is found in Psalm 34 and verse 19. Many are the afflictions, many are the sufferings of the righteous, but the Lord will deliver him from them all. We're not talking about the unrighteous, we are talking about the Christians. I'm talking about you, sir, you, madam. That's right. There's nowhere in the Bible where it says, come to Jesus and all your problems will be over. I've tried to find that scripture for many years. It's not there. And that's why some people don't preach the whole gospel. They preach a part of the gospel, but not the whole gospel. And that's why a lot of people get disillusioned, because they come to Christ and they think that all their problems will be over. No, Jesus will not take us out of the fire. He'll walk with us through the fire. And you need to understand that. That's very important, because that's where the confusion comes. Some people say, I've given my life to the Lord, I'm serving, and things are going worse than before. Welcome to the club. Oh yes, but there's no other way to live. So we go straight to Matthew chapter 20, and I'm reading from verse 22. But Jesus answered and said, you do not know what you ask. Are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink, and be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? Remember James and John, their mother came to Jesus and said, I want my one son to sit on the one side of you in heaven and my other son to sit on the other side. And Jesus says, I don't think you know what you're asking for. And then he says, can you drink of the cup? And they said, yes. And he said, you will. But coming to whether you'll be sitting on the left or right-hand side, that's not up to me. That's up to my Father in heaven. Now, what I've brought with me here, maybe some of you have seen it, it's a hand cross. In many churches, people who pray have got a hand cross. There is the hand cross. Okay, so you hold the cross in your hand. They're made out of wood. This one's made out of brass. Okay? And you hold it in your hand and you squeeze it. And when you squeeze it, the corners of the cross cut into your fingers. And you can feel the pain. You can feel the pain, the suffering. I've had this hand cross for maybe over 30 years. A pastor in Australia gave it to me as a gift many, many years ago. And I have never, ever lost it. It stays on the desk in my prayer room. Now this cross, the original is in the Basilica in Rome, I believe. But this cross was found in the catacombs of Rome. Those are those big caves underneath the city of Rome, where the Christians used to hide when the Roman soldiers were trying to find them to kill them, to feed them to the lions at the Colosseum. So this cross is a very important cross. Now there's some young girls, young ladies watching this program that wear a beautiful cross around your neck, and I have no problem with that, by the way. It is a beautiful ornament, but you must remember it represents suffering. Jesus says, if you want to be my disciple, you must deny yourself daily. Take up your cross and follow after me. That is what this cross actually stands for. Yes, of course, it stands for victory. It stands for resurrection. But it stands for suffering. So when somebody says to you, come to Jesus and all your troubles will be over, that's not exactly right. Come to Jesus and he'll walk with you through every trouble that you go through. So suffering is part of the Christian faith. That's why Jesus said, can you drink this cup? And then we go on to Mark chapter 14 and verse 36. And in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus himself, while praying on his own, he said to the Lord, that was when he was sweating drops of blood. He was under so much stress. According to the medical profession, if someone is stressing so badly, he can actually exude drops of blood from his skin. And that's what Jesus was about. And he said to the Lord, Lord, take this cup from me. And then he said, but not my will, thy will be done. Jesus was not looking forward to what he was about to go through. He knew everything. Even before he went to Jerusalem, he told his disciples that I'm going to suffer and I'm going to be crucified. He tells them that. You can read it in the book of John. He said, but on the third day, I'll be raised from the dead. What I want to speak to you about today is not so much physical pain. It's spiritual pain. It's mental pain and anguish. 2 Corinthians 10, 4 and 5. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, fleshly, but they are mighty in God to the pulling down of strongholds. That's what Paul wrote. So the pain that I'm talking about today is the pain, spiritual pain, mental pain that we are going through. We have to bring, verse 5 says, bring in every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Folks, the battle is not in the flesh, I tell you. It's in the mind. It's not even in the heart. It's in the mind. And that's why you've got to be so careful what you are watching on TV or your device, your iPad, your cell phone. Be very, very careful. Things like pornography. You know that I'm absolutely devastated when I hear of the percentage of pastors that are hooked up on pornography. And when you are watching that stuff, you need deliverance. You don't just stop doing it. It's like alcoholism or drug addiction. That's why you have to watch out what you are thinking. And that's just one aspect. There's many other aspects. What about racism? I want to tell you that in my heart, I know that God is no respecter of persons. Whether you be black, white, whether you be male or female, it talks about Greek or Jew. If you love Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, that is enough. And I'm going to make a statement because I've been sent a letter by a lady who is concerned for her daughter who's going out with a man of a different race group. Is that scripturally correct or not? She got advice from a speaker who said it's not right. I said to the lady, I don't care what color the skin of that person is. I have only one concern. Is that person a follower of Jesus Christ or not? So whether that person is black or white is immaterial to me. What is important to me is that that person is a Christian. My children are all up and married, but my daughters, if they came to me and said, Dad, I'm going to marry a man of another color, I wouldn't mind if he's a believer. But he can be a white man and she's a white girl, but he's an unbeliever, then there's a major problem for me. And it cannot work and it cannot happen. Jesus Christ is no respecter of persons. Racialism is a terrible thing, folks. Unacceptable to God. Totally unacceptable. When you are suffering for the cross, it's things like accusations. I've been there many, many times. When you start getting accused of things you didn't do, you didn't say, but because you're becoming well-known, people use you and they twist whatever you say. Accusations. It never happens when you're in the world. The devil couldn't care. He's already got you. It's when you stand out for Jesus Christ that you get falsely accused. Loneliness is a real thing for a follower of Jesus Christ. You can be the life and soul of the party when you're an unbeliever. And you can do all kinds of stupid and foolish things and you're very popular and everybody loves you because you're a good guy, etc. But when you start standing up for the Lord and you say, I don't do that anymore, I don't watch those filthy movies anymore, I don't get drunk anymore, I don't take drugs anymore, you become lonely. Because those people that used to be your friends don't want to associate with you anymore. And when you come into their presence, they feel awkward. They don't want you there. Loneliness, the loss of friends. You know, Jesus started off with 120 disciples. By the end, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and the high priest soldiers came to arrest Jesus, the Bible tells us that they all, I'll say that again, they all forsook him and fled. They all ran away. Not one of them stood with him. He stood on his own, by himself, one person. He understands what you're going through. Now, that is suffering. Running away. The ones that said, we'll leave. Peter said, I'll die for you. He said, you'll deny me 3 times before the cock crows. Oh, folks, I want to say to you, weeping lasts for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 30 and verse 5. I want to tell you that that's not the end of the story of suffering. I want to tell you, folks, if I had to live my life again, I would not change a thing. And I have really, not as much as some, I know that, but I've been through the fire. Not once, not twice. You know, when I lost my little nephew, who fell off the tractor I was driving, and he died. And I had to take him back to his daddy. That was something I wouldn't wish on the devil, never mind anybody else. I've had bushfires here. This beautiful flay in front of us here. By mistake, I set it on fire one year. You laugh, it's not a laughing matter. The whole of the district had to scramble to try and hold the fire back from their farms, right the way up the valley to the mountain, right at the back. I did it. I know about suffering. I had to get on the radio and say, I'm sorry, but I was burning fire breaks and the fires jumped into the flay, into the wetland, and it is burning the whole district. I'm talking about thousands of hectares here of wetland. I know about suffering. Drought, when the crops are just perishing. Every single day I get up and drive around in my pickup and I pray, Lord, please send the rain, and no rain comes. I know about suffering. And the bank manager phones up and says, your production loan is at its limit and your bank balance is at its limit. We can't give you any more money and you need to start paying it back. And I go out there and there's nothing to see. I know about suffering. I want to say to you that many are those afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord, He will deliver us from them all. There's the cross. I want you to remember that. The cross of suffering. Yes, not the cross of prosperity. No, the cross of suffering. Take this cup, not a cup of prosperity, a cup of pain and suffering. But not my will, your will be done. You know, before I pray for you, because I'm going to pray for you, I just sense in my spirit, there are many people watching this program who are in a situation of suffering, despair. You're trying to come to grips with your wife of your youth. You've been married for over 50 years, like myself and Jill, and the Lord has seen fit to take her home. And now you're trying to continue to live. You feel like your arm and your leg have been amputated. How do you keep going? You've got to keep your eyes on Jesus. You've got to get up in the morning and have quiet times. You've got to read this book. You've got to spend time with fellow believers, and God will restore you. We are running the race of our lives, folks. It's not always plain sailing. There's some steep mountains. There's some deep valleys, but He's promised us He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. I'm telling you, I'm a testimony to tell you that our God is sovereign, that nothing can happen without His permission. I don't say He causes it, but we live in a fallen world. This world is not heaven. This is not utopia. We're going to heaven. He gives us the grace, undeserved loving kindness, unmerited favor. That's what grace means, to live one day at a time. I want to tell you a little story before I pray for you. In 2009, on this farm, we had a Mighty Men conference. There was 120,000 men here. It was beautiful. Everything was going well. It was a Saturday morning. I was on the platform preaching my heart out. Yes, it had been hectic because I'd been preaching on Friday night as well. Saturday morning, when I'd finished preaching, I'd been up there for over an hour. I came down the steps and I went underneath the platform. They had put shade cloth around the platform for a bit of privacy. And I was sitting there and they brought in a group of farmers from Australia. 80 of them actually. And they asked me to pray for them. And I started to pray for each one and I gave them a word. Now this is when the service is still going. My son Andy was leading the praise and worship on the top of the platform. And I started to pray and I prayed for every one of them. I know I overdid it, but that seems to be what I always do. But I paid for it. When I'd finished with the last guy, it was very, very, very hot that morning. Must have been around about 11, 12 o'clock. I said, I'm just going to go out of the tent to get a bit of fresh air. It was at the end of the service. As I walked out, I started feeling lightheaded. My son was coming down the steps. He had just finished the praise and worship, and he actually caught me as I collapsed. And I remember coming to, and then I was physically sick, nauseous, sick. And he said, are you okay, Dad? I said, I think so. Where am I? I didn't even know where I was. He said, you're at the meeting. I said, I think I better go home. Now, the house was half a kilometer away from the stage. They put me in the car. But I'll never forget, it must have been the Holy Spirit. At that time, there was a group of men standing around the bottom of the platform. They had that red and white tape to keep the guys back. And these men were weeping. I looked up. I couldn't believe it. They were crying. Silently weeping. They put me in the back of the car. I said, don't worry, boys. I'll see you later. See you for the afternoon session. They took me to the house. When I got out of the car, I walked in through the back gate and down the path towards the house. One of my grandsons, he was only about 3 or 4 years old, and he looked up and he saw me and he started crying. He said, what's wrong with Kulu? It's the Zulu word for grandfather. It's what they call me. A child can anticipate things often that a grown-up can't. They took me into the house. They said to Jill that I'd collapsed. We just thought it was fatigue. So I went into the garden. I sat on a chair and she brought me a hot cup of tea with a lot of sugar in it to give me some energy. I remember taking one mouthful of that tea and I went down the second time. But this time I stayed down. My youngest daughter is a nurse. And she came running. The whole family was there. My pulse went to 0. Nope. Pulse. They didn't know what to do. They got doctors there. Remember, when you've got 120,000 men, by law, you have to have a field hospital for every 30,000 men. We had some of the top doctors in South Africa that were here. They came and they put a needle in my vein, intravenous, and they put adrenaline in there. Now, you'll know, if you know anything about me, you don't do that. That's the last straw before somebody dies. And they called 911. A helicopter came from Durban. It was very traumatic, folks. It landed right outside our garden. They cut the fence. The paramedics came running in with a stretcher. Those men were Christians. Brother Angus, don't worry, you're going to be okay. I couldn't speak, folks. I had an oxygen mask on my face. I could see everything, but I couldn't speak. And I'm lying there and I'm saying, Lord, what is happening? This is my finest moment I've been waiting for my whole life. And now I can't do anything. As they picked me up in the stretcher, they put straps across me so that I wouldn't fall off the stretcher. They carried me to the helicopter. Now, there was about 40 helicopters there that day, but none of them could take a man who had had a heart attack. I didn't know it, but I'd had two. First one under the platform, second one in my garden. They put me in that helicopter. And the lady, a very good pilot, and as she took off with the helicopter, she did a half circle across the field, and she tilted the helicopter, and I looked out the side, and I saw 120,000 pairs of hands in the air. Makes me very emotional. These men were praying for me. They had just been told that Angus has had 2 heart attacks. You talk about suffering. I'm saying, Lord, what is happening? But you see, the Lord had everything under control. When I arrived at the helipad in Pietermaritzburg, like 5-10 minutes later, that girl was flying very fast. They got one of the top heart specialists to have a look at me. And he said to me, his name was Dr. Baig, very nice man. He says he comes from Persia. I'll never forget that. He said, step up on that treadmill. And he had a screen that looked like a massive TV screen. And he put wires all over the place, and I had to start walking. And then he said, I want you to start trotting. And then it was finished. He said, Mr. Buchan, there's something very strange here. I said, what is it, doctor? He said, there's nothing wrong with you. You can go back home. Jesus Christ healed me in a few minutes. When you have a heart attack, your heart is like a pump. And when you have a heart attack, the pump gets torn. That's why some people who have had heart attacks can never walk. They are in a wheelchair for the rest of their lives because they don't have the energy. The next morning, I was on the platform preaching at the final session of the 2009 Mighty Men Conference. I was finished. I felt like I'd been run over by a truck. I had to sit down every 10 minutes. But I want to tell you, there was such a presence of God in that meeting. Thousands of men gave their lives to Christ that day, weeping. And some of you are watching this program as I'm talking to you now. Do not be afraid of suffering. Just make sure you are suffering for the right thing. And make sure the Prince of Peace, who knows all about suffering, is walking with you. Jesus bless you and goodbye.